Before a single word is spoken, before a message is typed, before a gesture is even noticed, something deeper has already been communicated. It is not the tone of your voice or the choice of your words that creates the first impression. It is your energy. Energy speaks before the mouth moves. It whispers your truth into the atmosphere, and others, even without understanding why, can feel it. Some are drawn closer. Some step away. Some remember you long after you leave the room, not because of what you said, but because of what your presence awakened within them. Energy is not something that can be faked for long. You can wear the smile, you can rehearse the posture, you can say all the right things. But energy is the reflection of your inner world. It tells the story of how at peace you are with yourself. It tells whether you are grounded or anxious, whether your confidence is real or just an act, whether your love is calm or desperate. People may not consciously analyze it, but they always feel it. A man feels the energy of a woman before he ever listens to her words. He senses the balance or chaos within her field, and it affects how he responds, how he behaves, how he values her presence. When your energy is clear, calm, and centered, you do not chase, you attract. You don't need to convince anyone to see your value. You don't need to over-explain, over-text, or over-perform. The stillness of your energy becomes a mirror. It reflects strength, self-trust, and a quiet mystery that cannot be imitated. When you are grounded, your energy communicates, "Oh, I am enough. I am whole. I am not searching for completion in another." This is what makes others crave your presence, because it is rare to find someone who carries peace in a world filled with noise. When you enter a room with scattered thoughts and anxious emotions, your energy feels fragmented. People can feel the disconnection between your words and your vibration. You may say, "I am fine," but your energy reveals otherwise. The body tenses, the breath shortens, the eyes lose their calm. In contrast, when you walk into a space with centered awareness, when your heart is steady and your spirit is aligned, people feel safe in your presence. They relax because your energy tells them they can. This is how energy leads. It influences not through force but through resonance. Energy also speaks when you are silent in relationships. When you pull back, when you stop explaining yourself, when you choose to let your peace do the talking, your absence becomes more powerful than any words you could say. This is not manipulation. It is alignment. It means you understand that energy cannot lie. If someone truly felt connection with you, your silence will echo in their mind. They will feel the shift in vibration. When you no longer project need, your energy becomes magnetic. It pulls rather than pushes. It allows craving to form naturally because your value is no longer being broadcast through words. It is being felt through presence. Every emotion you carry sends a signal. When you are joyful, others sense lightness. When you are bitter, others feel resistance. When you are content, others feel at ease around you. This is why your inner world matters more than your outer image. You can change your clothes, your hairstyle, your posture, but if your energy remains heavy, people will still feel that something is off. True beauty radiates from emotional clarity. It is the quiet confidence of knowing who you are and being unshaken by external opinions. Energy is shaped by how you think and how you treat yourself. Every thought you repeat becomes part of your vibration. When you live in self-doubt, you emit uncertainty. When you carry resentment, you emit tension. But when you practice gratitude, self-awareness, and patience, your energy softens. It becomes radiant, alive, and warm. People may not be able to define it, but they feel better when you are near. They feel a subtle calm, as though something inside them remembers peace. To refine your energy, you must become aware of it. You must learn to observe your emotions without reacting, to slow your breath, to be still. This stillness is not empty, it is full of awareness. It allows you to hear the truth that words cannot reveal. When you master stillness, you master your energy. You begin to move through life with quiet power. You no longer speak to be heard, your presence already does that. You no longer demand attention, your calm confidence attracts it. When your energy becomes peaceful, it affects everything you touch. Your relationships deepen, your communication softens, your decisions become wiser. You stop over-explaining because your calm energy speaks trust. You stop proving your worth because your vibration already expresses it. You stop rushing because your presence has become enough. In this way, your energy becomes your language, one that cannot be faked, manipulated, or misunderstood. The most magnetic energy is the one that flows from self-acceptance. When you no longer fight who you are, when you stop hiding your emotions or pretending to be something else, your energy settles into authenticity. Authentic energy is irresistible because it is rare, it carries truth, it feels real in a world full of performance. When you embody this energy, you communicate everything without words: respect, serenity, mystery, and quiet power. In the end, it is never about trying to make someone crave you. It is about learning to embody an energy that nourishes you first. From that wholeness, craving happens naturally. Others are drawn not to your looks or your voice, but to the way they feel when they are in your presence. They are drawn to the peace that radiates from you, the quiet confidence that needs no validation, the strength that does not need to dominate. Because energy, more than anything you could ever say, always speaks first and speaks truth. In a world where everyone is rushing, talking, and constantly moving, stillness becomes a rare and powerful energy. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, uneasy in moments of pause, and restless when they are not being entertained or distracted. Yet it is within stillness that true presence begins to form. It is in stillness that clarity awakens, and it is from that space of inner calm that magnetism is born. Stillness is not emptiness. It is depth. It is awareness that no longer chases, no longer grasps, no longer needs to prove. It is the quiet vibration that pulls others toward you without a single word, without effort, without strategy. When you are still, you create a space that others can feel but cannot easily explain. Stillness is not passive. It is receptive. It listens, it observes, it absorbs. It has weight, gravity, and quiet power. A person who is at ease within themselves does not need to dominate the room with noise or movement. Their stillness becomes a mirror that reflects everything around them. It reveals who is restless, who is calm, who seeks attention, and who is at peace. This kind of presence cannot be learned from words or techniques. It grows from self-awareness, from learning to be with your own energy without fleeing from it. Stillness is magnetic because it communicates safety. People are drawn to what feels safe, what feels grounded, what feels stable when their own minds are chaotic. When you embody stillness, your energy tells others, you can rest here, you can breathe here. That message is silent, but deeply felt. In relationships, this quality is especially powerful. A woman who can sit in her stillness without anxiety or impatience becomes a mystery that draws others in. Her calm creates contrast. Her silence becomes space. Her presence invites curiosity, not through performance, but through natural balance. Stillness also communicates confidence. Most people feel the need to fill silence with words, laughter, or constant explanation because they fear being misunderstood or unseen. But when you are still, you no longer fear silence. You let it speak for you. Your calmness tells others that you are comfortable with yourself. You are not seeking validation. You are not reaching outward for attention. You are resting in your own completeness. That energy is captivating. It cannot be forced, and it cannot be imitated by those who depend on noise to feel significant. To cultivate stillness, you must first learn to be present with discomfort. The mind will try to distract you, to move, to talk, to fill the gaps. But every time you choose to stay still, in your thoughts, in your breath, in your reactions, you reclaim power. You begin to notice the space between stimulus and response. You begin to see that not every emotion requires expression, not every thought requires a voice, not every situation demands control. From this awareness, you start to emit a different kind of energy, calm, stable, grounded. And that energy becomes magnetic because people crave peace more than excitement, depth more than noise, presence more than attention. Stillness also enhances perception. When you are calm, your senses sharpen. You begin to notice the subtle, the tone behind someone's words, the energy behind their gestures, the truth behind their eyes. In stillness, you see what noise tries to hide. You understand without asking. You sense without searching. This makes your presence feel almost mystical to others because you begin to respond to energy, not just words. You begin to move with precision and grace instead of reaction and impulse. In human connection, stillness builds tension, not the anxious kind, but the kind that draws two souls closer without touch or conversation. When you can sit in silence with someone and not feel the need to fill it, a deeper intimacy is created. Your stillness invites theirs. It becomes a shared field of awareness, a quiet dialogue where hearts communicate more than mouths ever could. That is the kind of connection that lingers, that people remember without knowing why. Because stillness allows presence to meet presence without distraction, without fear. When you are still, you stop chasing validation. You no longer try to control how others perceive you because you have already anchored yourself in self-respect. You stop explaining your worth because you know it cannot be defined by words. Stillness teaches you patience. The patience to allow things to unfold naturally, the wisdom to understand that forcing energy breaks it, and the awareness that the real magnetism happens in spaciousness, not in pursuit. The magnetic power of stillness is also rooted in surrender. It is the art of letting go, not of caring, but of controlling. It is the ability to sit in the unknown and remain peaceful. This kind of surrender doesn't make you weak, it makes you untouchable. It allows you to hold space without being shaken by external movement. You no longer need to chase outcomes because you trust your energy to guide what belongs to you. You begin to realize that what is truly aligned with your vibration will find its way without resistance. Stillness transforms your energy field. It slows your breath, calms your heart, and clears your thoughts. When your inner rhythm becomes steady, others instinctively align to it. This is why when a calm person walks into a room, the energy changes. People lower their voices, their bodies relax, their tension softens. Stillness heals through resonance. It does not demand, it inspires balance. It reminds others of what peace feels like. The more you practice stillness, the less you seek from others. You begin to find fullness within yourself. You notice beauty in small moments, power in gentle movements, strength in silence. You begin to feel that stillness is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. It is awareness unshaken by chaos. It is emotion understood rather than suppressed. It is life observed rather than controlled. This presence is magnetic because it is whole. It needs nothing to complete it, and that is exactly why others crave to be near it. Stillness is the art of listening to your own essence. It allows you to reconnect with your natural rhythm, to remember who you were before the world told you to be louder, faster, more visible. In stillness, you return to your power. The power that does not shout but resonates. The power that does not chase but attracts. The power that does not perform but simply is. And in that state of being, magnetism arises naturally, effortlessly, quietly, like a calm current beneath the surface of a vast and silent ocean. There is a quiet strength that lives in the one who knows how to hold their emotions without letting them spill uncontrollably into the world. Emotional containment is not suppression, nor is it the act of pretending not to feel. It is the art of feeling deeply yet remaining steady. It is the ability to experience anger without lashing out, to feel love without losing yourself, to face disappointment without collapsing, and to move through pain without letting it define you. It is inner mastery, the kind of discipline that does not cage emotions but channels them with wisdom and grace. Most people are ruled by their emotions. They react, they burst, they explain, they overshare, and they give away their inner power every time an emotion arises. But the one who learns containment begins to live differently. They stop leaking energy through constant reaction. They stop allowing temporary feelings to create permanent consequences. When you contain your emotions, you hold your power. You become the calm eye in the center of the storm. Others may rage, speak loudly, or try to provoke, but your stillness unsettles them because it cannot be controlled. Emotional containment is the highest form of emotional intelligence. It transforms you from reactive to responsive, from impulsive to intentional, from scattered to centered. Containment does not mean you do not care. It means you care with awareness. You feel everything, but you don't hand your feelings to anyone to be managed or validated. You understand that emotions are visitors, not rulers. They arrive to show you something, to teach you something, but they are not meant to drive your actions. When you practice containment, you learn to breathe through your feelings instead of drowning in them. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You learn to let the waves pass without letting them carry you away. In relationships, emotional containment creates mystery and depth. When you can feel love without losing your independence, when you can feel pain without showing desperation, when you can feel anger without destroying connection, you become magnetic. You create space for curiosity because you are not emotionally predictable. You do not hand out every emotion like a confession. You move with restraint, and that restraint builds power. People are drawn to what they cannot fully read, to what holds itself with calm dignity. Your silence becomes powerful, your pauses meaningful, your energy more alluring than any explanation could ever be. Containment protects you from emotional exhaustion. Every time you react impulsively, you drain yourself. You give energy to what doesn't deserve it. You feed situations that only grow stronger from your reaction. But when you hold your emotions internally, when you observe them before expressing them, something profound happens. You begin to transform emotion into understanding. Anger becomes clarity, sadness becomes compassion, fear becomes awareness. You transmute what could destroy you into something that strengthens you. This is the quiet alchemy of emotional maturity. Containment also teaches you timing. Not every emotion needs to be shared in the moment. Some feelings need to breathe before they are spoken. Some truths need silence before they are understood. When you rush to express everything you feel, you often dilute the power of your words. But when you contain, when you wait, when you allow emotion to settle and transform, your words become deliberate, sharp, and meaningful. They carry weight because they are not born of chaos but of clarity. To contain your emotions is to become your own sanctuary. You no longer depend on others to soothe your storms. You learn to sit with yourself, to hold your own pain, to comfort your own heart. This is where true confidence is built, not in control of others, but in control of self. When you stop needing validation for how you feel, you stop being emotionally manipulated. You stop reacting to every vibration around you, and instead you begin to set the tone of your own energy. Containment is not coldness. It is warmth held with intention. It is passion that knows its boundaries. It is strength that moves with quiet elegance. The one who practices containment does not live numb. They live aware. They feel everything, but they choose what deserves expression and what deserves silence. They understand that not every emotion must be shared to be real, and not every feeling must be shown to be powerful. Some of the most transformative emotions live unspoken, processed within, refined into strength. In moments of conflict, emotional containment reveals your true power. When someone expects you to react and you remain composed, you shift the energy completely. The situation loses control over you. Your silence and calmness create space for truth to emerge, for others to see themselves clearly. You become the reflection that reveals chaos for what it is. This is why calmness is often misunderstood as indifference, because it exposes what others cannot yet regulate within themselves. Containment also enhances attraction. Emotional restraint creates polarity. When you don't rush to explain yourself, when you don't overexpress affection or frustration, when you simply observe and allow, others begin to lean in. They feel a sense of curiosity. They want to understand what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're holding back. Your calm energy becomes a puzzle that others wish to solve, not because of manipulation, but because your containment creates space for longing. When you are not constantly available emotionally, your presence becomes more valuable. To practice containment, begin with awareness. The next time an emotion arises, do not label it as good or bad, just notice it. Breathe into it. Feel its texture, its rhythm, its energy. Ask yourself what it wants to show you. Most of the time, emotions only ask to be seen, not released outwardly. When you learn to witness rather than react, the energy begins to dissolve naturally. You realize that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of expressing them impulsively can be permanent. Containment allows your energy to build rather than scatter. The more you hold your emotions consciously, the more inner power you generate. It becomes a quiet fire, not one that burns wildly, but one that glows steadily from within. That energy can then be directed toward creation, purpose, or healing. Instead of losing power through constant reaction, you begin to radiate it. You become magnetic not because of what you do, but because of what you don't do. Because your calm becomes rare, your composure becomes sacred, your presence becomes powerful beyond words. There is a quiet power that lives in the woman who no longer tries to prove her worth through performance. She does not chase approval. She does not imitate softness. She does not decorate her energy to please the eyes of others. She simply is. Her presence does not need to be loud to be known, nor exaggerated to be felt. True feminine presence moves like breath, invisible yet undeniably alive. It does not announce itself, but everything around it begins to shift. It is felt in the pause between words, in the calm of her gaze, in the stillness of her movements, in the way she listens more than she speaks. The modern world has taught women to perform rather than to embody, to act desirable rather than to rest in natural magnetism, to seek attention rather than to cultivate presence. But performance is shallow. It demands energy, validation, and constant effort. Embodiment, on the other hand, requires awareness. It is the art of being connected to your body, your breath, your intuition, and your emotions without apology. It is not about doing, it is about being. Feminine presence is not built through external display, but through internal alignment. When your mind, heart, and body are united, you radiate something that cannot be faked or copied. A woman who is embodied carries a quiet rhythm. Her presence feels like peace in a world that is always rushing. When she walks into a room, the energy shifts, not because she demands attention, but because her groundedness commands it. People sense something stable, something unshakable. Her energy speaks of self-trust, of a deep knowing that does not require validation. That kind of presence can only come from within, from a place where you have met yourself in silence, where you have faced your shadows and learned to rest in your light. Feminine presence is not about trying to be gentle, nurturing, or seductive. Those are surface expressions. True feminine energy is deeper. It is rooted in awareness. It can be soft, but it can also be strong. It can be warm, but it can also be still. It shifts like water, adapting, flowing, yet never losing its essence. When you are connected to that essence, you no longer imitate emotion to be understood. You no longer act confident to be respected. You no longer perform calmness to appear in control. You simply embody truth. And truth, when lived through presence, is magnetic. People often confuse visibility with presence. Visibility is external. It comes from being seen. Presence is internal. It comes from being felt. You can be visible and unnoticed, yet completely unseen. And you can be silent, sitting quietly in a corner, and still command the attention of a room. Presence is not in your outfit, your tone, or your gestures. It is in your energy. When your energy is coherent, when it flows without resistance, when it is not fragmented by insecurity or fear, people feel harmony in your aura. They cannot describe it, but they sense it. You do not need to convince anyone of your value because your energy communicates it long before your words do. Feminine presence is cultivated through awareness of the body. When you are disconnected from your body, you live in your head, analyzing, worrying, performing, trying. But when you drop into your body, when you breathe deeply and inhabit yourself fully, your energy slows down. You begin to move with intention. You listen to your emotions instead of suppressing them. You begin to walk, speak, and interact from a centered state. This embodied stillness is the essence of magnetic feminine energy. It grounds you in authenticity. Presence also means comfort with silence. Many perform because they fear quietness, as if silence will make them invisible or forgotten. But true presence thrives in silence. When you can sit in quiet and remain radiant, when you can let moments breathe without rushing to fill them, your energy deepens. Others feel drawn to you because your stillness gives them permission to rest. You become a sanctuary, a calm vibration that reminds others of peace they have forgotten within themselves. That is the gift of feminine energy that is felt, not performed. It awakens safety without needing to speak it. Feminine presence is also about emotional truth. It is not perfection, it is openness. When you feel sadness, you do not hide it behind a smile. When you feel joy, you do not exaggerate it for validation. You allow emotions to pass through you naturally. You trust that your vulnerability does not weaken your energy, it refines it. Presence is born from honesty. When you are emotionally authentic, your energy becomes transparent, and transparency is what people truly feel. It tells them you are real, and in that reality, they find connection. To cultivate feminine presence, one must slow down. Speed is the language of the mind, but presence is the language of the body. When you move slowly, when you breathe fully, when you choose your words with intention, you begin to reclaim your energy. You stop scattering it outward in constant performance, and instead, you begin to radiate it inwardly. This radiance cannot be ignored. It is the kind that draws people closer without asking them to come. It is the kind that makes silence feel alive, that turns a simple glance into communication, that turns a soft breath into power. There is an unspoken beauty in the woman who no longer needs to prove her femininity. She no longer dresses to impress, speaks to be validated, or behaves to be chosen. Her presence becomes her message. It tells the world, I am here, and that is enough. Her confidence is not in volume, but in vibration. Her beauty is not in appearance, but in alignment. Her attraction is not in effort, but in essence. Feminine presence cannot be taught through rules or techniques because it is not a performance. It is a remembrance. It is remembering what it feels like to be in harmony with yourself, to breathe deeply, to listen inwardly, to soften without fear, to hold power without force. It is a return to your natural state, calm yet alive, quiet yet powerful, soft yet grounded. And when a woman lives from that place, everyone feels it. The air shifts when she enters. The noise around her fades. The energy in the space reorganizes itself. Because true feminine presence does not demand attention, it receives it. It does not chase love, it radiates it. It does not perform for approval, it emanates authenticity. It is not something you wear or say. It is something you air, something that is felt in silence. Something that moves unseen but changes everything it touches. There comes a moment when you realize that the more you try to control life, the more it slips through your hands. The tighter you grip what you desire, the further it drifts from your reach. Detachment is not about indifference, it is about freedom. It is the wisdom of allowing life to unfold without forcing, manipulating, or rushing its rhythm. To detach from outcome means to release the illusion that happiness or peace depends on what happens next. It means remembering who you are beyond your desires, beyond your fears, beyond what you are trying to achieve. It is a return to essence. The quiet, unshackable self that exists before the world's expectations begin to shape your sense of worth. Most people live in constant attachment to outcome. They chase love, success, attention, or validation as if these external things could define their identity. But the more they chase, the emptier they feel. When you are attached, your peace becomes conditional. You say, I will feel calm when he calls me back, when the plan works, when the result goes my way. But peace that depends on outcome is never real peace. It is a temporary comfort, a fragile illusion. True peace arises when you can look at uncertainty and remain grounded, when you can want something deeply and still be at ease whether it happens or not. That is detachment, not withdrawal from desire, but liberation from dependence. Detachment requires trust, trust that life knows what it's doing. Even when you don't understand it, it asks you to stop wrestling with the current and start flowing with it. When you detach, you shift from control to cooperation. You stop demanding that life fits your plan and start aligning yourself with what feels true, what feels real, what feels aligned with your essence. This shift opens you to a higher intelligence, a rhythm that moves with purpose rather than panic. The one who is detached moves differently. Their energy feels light but grounded, free but focused, confident but humble. They do not chase, they allow. They do not beg, they invite. They do not fear losing. They understand that what belongs to them cannot be taken. To detach from outcome in relationships is to stop defining your worth by someone else's attention. It is to stop performing to keep love, to stop bending yourself to be chosen. When you detach, you stop trying to make people feel something for you. You begin to understand that connection born from control is never real. The energy of trying too hard carries desperation, and desperation always repels. But when you release attachment, you return to your essence, that natural magnetism that needs no proving. You become peaceful in your own presence, and that peace is what draws others toward you. Detachment does not mean you stop caring, it means you start caring correctly. You still love, but your love no longer comes from need. You still dream, but your dreams no longer come from fear. You still give, but your giving no longer drains you. You do everything from fullness, not from lack. When you are detached, you understand that every outcome, good or bad, is part of your growth. You no longer resist what happens because you trust that even what doesn't go your way carries wisdom. Every ending redirects you. Every silence teaches you. Every loss refines you. This is how detachment turns pain into peace, by freeing you from the illusion of control. Returning to essence means remembering who you were before you became defined by goals and outcomes. Your essence is not built on success, relationships, or reputation. It is the still presence beneath it all. When you return to essence, you stop identifying with what you achieve or fail to achieve. You begin to see yourself not as the doer, but as the being. The awareness that watches, the consciousness that experiences without becoming attached. From this space, your actions become cleaner, purer, more powerful. You act without expectation, and that is why your energy becomes magnetic. When you stop forcing, everything that aligns with your essence naturally begins to flow toward you. Attachment creates tension, detachment creates flow. When you are attached, you vibrate from fear, fear of loss, rejection, uncertainty. This vibration pushes away what you want. But when you detach, your vibration becomes calm and open. You no longer send mixed signals to the universe. You become a clear channel, and in that clarity, what is meant for you can finally find you. Detachment makes you receptive. It creates space for life to bring what aligns with your essence, not what your ego demands. Detachment also requires humility. It means accepting that you cannot control timing. You cannot force understanding. You cannot rush growth. You can only be present with what is and trust that what is unfolding is enough for this moment. The ego resists this truth because it wants certainty, but the soul thrives in surrender. The soul knows that timing has intelligence, that every delay hides protection, that every unanswered question carries purpose. When you live from essence, you stop fighting reality. You meet life as it comes, and in that acceptance, peace begins to grow naturally. When you detach from outcome, you reclaim your energy. Every thought you once poured into worry, every emotion you once wasted on control begins to return to you. You feel lighter. You stop reacting to every small change. You stop overanalyzing every detail. Your focus shifts from chasing what might happen to fully experiencing what is happening. You begin to notice beauty again, in simple moments, in quiet breaths, in the subtle rhythm of life. You become aligned with yourself, and that alignment becomes your magnetism. Returning to essence is a homecoming. It is the rediscovery of your natural state, open, calm, present, unafraid. When you operate from essence, your energy feels effortless. You no longer need to manipulate or perform to attract what you desire. You embody it, you radiate it, you become it. And because energy always seeks its equal, life mirrors that vibration back to you. Opportunities, relationships, and experiences that reflect your essence begin to flow in naturally. The power of detachment lies in the freedom it gives you to live without fear. It allows you to love without losing yourself, to dream without clinging, to move forward without anxiety. It turns every outcome into a teacher, every delay into a moment of faith, every loss into redirection. Detachment brings you back to your essence, the space where you no longer chase life but meet it, where you no longer fight for peace but embody it, where you no longer search for meaning but become it. Because when the outcome no longer owns you, the present moment finally can. There is a sacred language that lives within silence, one that words often distort and noise easily drowns. Silence is not emptiness, it is the space where truth begins to breathe. In silence, things reveal themselves that can never be understood through talking, explaining, or convincing. The world moves so fast, filled with constant chatter, distractions, and noise that tries to fill every quiet corner. But silence is where depth is born. It is where the surface fades and the essence begins to speak. When you learn to be still, to sit in silence without needing to fill it, you begin to feel the weight and texture of reality. You begin to see that silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. Silence invites depth because it removes pretense. When there is no noise to hide behind, the truth stands bare. You begin to see your thoughts, your emotions, and your desires for what they really are. You begin to hear the quiet voice beneath your fear, the subtle intuition beneath your mind's noise. Most people fear silence because it forces them to meet themselves. It strips away distraction and reveals what is unresolved within. Yet this is exactly why silence is sacred. It shows you what you've been running from. It brings you face to face with what needs healing, not to punish you, but to free you from illusion. In relationships, silence carries a profound power. When you no longer rush to fill every moment with conversation, you create space for connection to deepen. True intimacy is not built through constant words, it is built through presence. When two people can sit together in silence and still feel understood, when energy replaces explanation, when the eyes begin to speak more than the tongue, depth awakens. This kind of silence is not awkward. It is sacred. It is a language of souls. It allows two energies to merge without resistance, without pretense, without the walls that words often build. Silence also invites self-mastery. The one who can remain quiet in moments of chaos carries power that cannot be faked. When others react, they observe. When others argue, they breathe. When others explain, they simply watch. Their silence is not weakness, it is awareness. They understand that silence holds information that words destroy. They have learned that the loudest truth is often the one that doesn't need to be spoken. In silence, perception sharpens. You begin to see what others miss. The energy behind actions, the emotion behind tone, the intention behind movement. You begin to understand without asking, to feel without being told. Silence is also the bridge between emotion and wisdom. When you sit in silence with your feelings, instead of running from them or expressing them impulsively, they begin to soften. You begin to see that every emotion is a wave, temporary, passing, and meaningful only when understood from stillness. When you express too quickly, you release emotion without insight. But when you contain it in silence, when you sit with it patiently, it begins to teach you. Anger shows you where boundaries were crossed. Sadness reveals what needs letting go. Fear exposes where you are clinging too tightly. Silence turns emotion into understanding. The depth that silence brings cannot be found through noise because noise distracts. It scatters attention outward. Silence draws it inward. When you learn to sit in silence each day, even for a few minutes, you begin to hear the hum of your own energy. You notice the breath moving in and out, the heartbeat grounding you in presence. You begin to sense the subtle rhythm of existence, a vibration that connects you to something larger than yourself. This is the depth silence invites, a depth that is not intellectual but experiential. It cannot be described, it must be felt. Silence refines your energy. It slows your thoughts, calms your nervous system, and clears the noise from your mind. When you carry silence within you, your presence becomes powerful. You no longer rush to speak because your energy already communicates enough. You no longer seek to be understood through words because your vibration expresses truth effortlessly. Others feel peace around you, not because you say the right things, but because your silence allows them to feel safe in theirs. You begin to notice that silence is not passive. It transforms every space it touches. In a world obsessed with expression, silence becomes rebellion. Everyone wants to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, but few want to understand. Few want to listen. Few want to pause long enough to truly feel. Silence separates the reactive from the conscious. The one who listens more than they speak begins to access a different dimension of awareness. They begin to sense patterns, notice subtleties, and perceive truth without interference. In silence, perception becomes pure. You stop hearing through the filter of ego and start hearing through the lens of essence. Silence also builds respect. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. People listen because they know your voice rises from reflection, not reaction. Your silence teaches patience. It reminds others that wisdom doesn't rush. In silence, you give others the gift of being heard. You create space for others to unfold. You stop interrupting life with noise, and life begins to reveal itself to you in return. There is also silence between thoughts, the brief pause between one idea and the next. That space is often missed, but it holds the key to freedom. When you rest in that gap, when you extend that moment of stillness, you experience something profound, awareness without identity. You become the witness instead of the thinker. This is the depth that silence leads to, the recognition that beneath all noise, you are consciousness itself. The same awareness that listens to the wind, that feels the heartbeat, that observes thoughts passing like clouds across a still sky. Silence is also a form of love. To sit in silence with another person is to offer them space, space free of judgment, space free of demand, space free of noise. It says, "You do not need to perform for me. You can simply be." That kind of silence is healing. It creates intimacy that no words can reach. It is the still water where connection reflects its truest form. Silence invites depth because it slows time. It turns ordinary moments into presence. It allows you to feel life instead of rushing through it. When you stop speaking for a while, when you stop reacting, you begin to notice small details, the sound of your breath, the movement of light, the quiet pulse of existence. You realize how much beauty has always been there, hidden beneath noise. Silence opens the doorway to the unseen, to the eternal, to the space where everything communicates not through language, but through vibration. It reminds you that everything meaningful lives beyond words. Love, peace, awareness, truth, all of it waiting patiently in the depths that silence reveals.